By the way, I don't know. I guess you didn't really introduce
Yeah,
me,
I know. I
but
was just realizing this.
yeah, no, I'm one of the two co-chairs,
Two
co-equal
co-chairs. That's
co-chairs
the official
of the
title.
Delaware chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America,
Yes.
DSA.
Hey, 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 what's happening, friends? Big Dog Ethan here. I am with the very patient Jonathan Tate. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Ethan. Thanks for having me on your show. How are you doing today?
Um, I'm doing pretty good. I think now we're finally getting this thing going. I was very excited to talk because I did finally get the chance to sort of listen through the whole Delaware podcast thing. Because at first, I will admit I kind of lost interest in it because I think you're really focusing on your roots in Delaware, which I understand why the interviewer wanted to do that. It's a Delaware podcast, but I did sort of I didn't necessarily get all like the specifics, I think, because I was kind of trying to do other things at the time, but it sounded like y'all were going into the nitty gritty details of it sounds like there were some local efforts to try to get cannabis like legalized in Delaware, but those sound like those fell through apparently.
Yeah, no. So there was an effort to legalize cannabis in Delaware. So their original plan was to go through to legalize cannabis, to have like an established taxation system, do all of it the thorough way.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the way that the Delaware Constitution is set up, anything that raises revenue requires a three-fifths supermajority, which they did not have.
Oh,
So they did what is essentially a clean legalization bill, which just like there was no like dispensaries or anything like that. It was just going to be like kind of like how DC is, where it's just
oh.
there's just no penalty at all for
Gotcha.
possession
But
of
they're not doing
cannabis.
anything to actually like make it a legal industry. That's the problem. And the thing that, because I had talked here on the Kennel about how California had poorly really set up their industry, not making sure that they really handed out way too many cultivation licenses. Um, but that said, I mean, even it's still important at the state level to at least try to get whatever I mean, the clean legalization bill is like kind of a nice. I mean, at least you're not like throwing people away in prison and subjecting them to possibly like slave labor for a nonviolent drug offense.
Yeah, I mean in Delaware, I mean it is decriminalized here. I mean
Oh
it's a
yeah.
$100 fine.
Oh okay.
And the current Attorney General, Kathy Jennings, I have some positive things to say about her, some negative things to say about her. But one positive thing I will say is that she has instituted a policy of not prosecuting any cannabis cases for less than 6 ounces.
Okay. Oh wow.
So
Wonderful.
it's pretty decriminalized here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the thing is that they were able to get the clean legalization bill through. And they had enough votes to actually have a veto-proof majority. But unfortunately, our Governor Carney, he's very, very like moderate, like conservative,
Yeah.
like kind of like blue dog Democrat, he vetoed the bill, and then there were six people who voted for the bill, but then voted against the veto override, so it failed
Huh.
in the House.
Interesting.
Got
That's
through the Senate just fine, but the
the
House
house they just couldn't
was
get
a big
through.
obstacle, and I was really amazed. I mean, because
The representative that you named, I'm curious. I'm willing to bet that he's probably taken a lot of money from either alcohol corporations, big pharma, or I mean, what other? Oh, maybe the
the representative, you the governor
oh governor.
Carney.
My bad. Sorry, governor that you were referring that.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't. I mean, I haven't looked at the guy's campaign finance reports,
Hmm,
but I mean, probably.
yeah.
I know that the alcohol industry isn't necessarily, at least in Delaware, they're not necessarily opposed to cannabis legalization,
Oh,
just because
interesting.
they have. I mean, it's a small state, and they already kind of have those type of distribution networks set up.
Yeah, that's true.
So they kind of think that they could
Mm,
get into that, whether as a separate entity or whatever. But yeah, I mean
interesting.
the pharmaceutical industry is very big in Delaware.
Oh
We
yeah.
have we have the AstraZeneca headquarters, of course, and there's
Oh
big Yeah, there's a huge Siemens office down in Glasgow.
Mm.
But I mean, no, I mean the baffling thing is just I mean the and, maybe he was maybe he's gunning for some sort of lobbying job or something with these people after he gets out. But I mean, our governor is term limited. I
Mm.
mean, he'll be he can't run again in 2024. I
Oh,
mean, I
huh.
know that he has he's had some family history of drug addiction and stuff. So maybe that's just kind of got him on the
Oh,
oh, like no drugs.
I
It's kind
get
of
you.
bent.
Yeah. So he's more
I mean, I get it, but I mean, it's
yeah.
just
Well, and the thing is, like, I
it's
mean,
very frustrating.
yeah, and whenever I bring up this point, I want to be very clear that like the current way that our current drug laws are completely inhumane. Let me be very clear about that. But that said,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, that said, I mean, sure, maybe there might be a few people out there who genuinely feel, oh yeah, like the best way to like keep me, in check is some kind of threat of like you know I don't know, criminal punishment.
Fines or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. I don't know how you get that way, but like but the thing is like I'd imagine it's such a minority of people, especially considering the conditions, like the terrible conditions, especially at private prisons. How big is, do you know, if the private prison, like industrial complex has any like roots in Delaware or has any like major, headquarters there?
To my knowledge, we don't have any private prisons, but I mean, our prison system is there's really a lot of problems. I mean, we don't have any county jails, so
Mm.
even low level offenders get sent to state prisons.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. I mean, there's been lots of, especially in the southern Delaware prisons,
Oh.
like Sussex Correctional Institute and
Oh.
the James T. Vaughn Correctional Institute, the maximum security prison in Smyrna.
Oh.
There's been some pretty credible reports of abuse,
Oh.
and there's really been a total lack of transparency. And
Hmm.
by the way, I don't know. I guess you didn't really introduce
Yeah,
me,
I know. I
but
was just realizing this. I know I was really wanting to get into this discussion, and yeah, I know. My apologies about that. I know you work with the DSA. Unfortunately, I was trying to look up your title and I couldn't even find, because I think you had sent me your Twitter page at some point. I couldn't find it.
yeah, no, I'm one of the two co-chairs,
Two
co-equal
co-chairs. That's
co-chairs
the
of,
official
of the
title.
Delaware chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America,
Yes.
DSA.
See.
But anyway, so one of our yeah, so that's who I am for all of our listeners. But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, one of our members who's in the state house, Representative Eric Morrison, he's been really vocal about this lack of transparency around
Yeah.
the abuse. But yeah, no, thankfully, at least to my knowledge, there's no private prison
That's good.
facilities operating in Delaware.
Yeah. That.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous that we don't have legalized cannabis, especially
Mm.
now that our neighbors in New Jersey just legalized it, and now there's like
Yeah.
all that tax revenue, all that
Yeah.
economic stimulus, just being whoosh, just
Yeah.
being
Well, and
sucked over the Delaware River.
keep this in mind too,
Um,
and keep this in mind too, because I've had this discussion with like other friends who have become like really interested in like cryptocurrency. Like, if we really do not, like, there are a lot of people out there now who I think are like very anti, and I think there are some valid concerns over it. But
yeah, I mean, there's definitely environmental concerns with the
yes.
mining of it, and
Yeah. Yeah, but one thing I will say about it is, because of the way that it is decentralized, especially if you look, I think it's like Mon- Monero, I think is the name of it. There was a friend who was telling me about it, and basically, word on the street is that it's some kind of currency that's actually been very hard for even like Interpol to actually track. So it's actually been, and let me be, there are also terrible negative side effects to that too, because that could also be used for other illegal activity as well. Say things like, I don't even want to get into that. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, we all know what
Yeah.
what other bad illegal.
I guess my point is that this, if you really want, like, if you really, the only valid use I see of cryptocurrency at this point, actually two, because my brother works with that, so that's a different story. But the only valid argument I could see for someone like wanting cryptocurrency is if they're in a state where they want to buy some kind of substance that they can't get legally. Well, that's probably the safest way to do it without getting caught. But I may even just cut that out because I don't like talking about that stuff on here. My friend trusted that to me in confidence. He may not be happy that I'm sharing this even anonymously. So, but anyways, this was actually an article I found on I think it was Wikipedia, but no, it wasn't Wikipedia. My bad. It was a BBC article. It was a link to a BBC article that it was citing Interpol not being able to I'm going to go find that article now just because I may even send it to you just because I want to be sure that I'm not sounding like I'm BSing you. But I feel like I should have first started off this interview actually with sort of congratulating you on the victories that you've had so far recently. Let me and I'm already forgetting her name. It begins with a K. I had it open in Brave before I had to, so I'm gonna. Her name was what was her name again?
I mean, a couple K candidates. There's Kira Hoffner for state senate and Carrie Evelyn Harris for state house.
Kira. Okay, interesting. So how many candidates total? Like how many candidates total won in the state races? Like 2 or more?
Oh, more. Yeah, no. So we had 8 so we endorsed 13 candidates in total.
Whoa.
Although 5 of them did not have primaries. So there were 8 primaries that we contested in with 7 members and 1 non-member endorsee, Carrie Evelyn Harris. Carrie won her primary, and the members went 5 and 2 in theirs. Wow. 1 Akira in the state senate, and the other 4 in the state house. Both of the losing efforts were state house races, and Carrie was in the state running for a state house seat as well.
So this sounds like a huge, and I kind of wish more people were talking. I mean, it sounds like a huge string of DSA victories at the local or at the state level in Delaware.
Oh yeah, I mean, proportionally, even just with our 2 current members in the state house, the Delaware House of Representatives has the highest, percentage of DSA members of any state legislative body in America.
Wow. What
and
how did that happen? Is it just there's just been a recent huge wave,
progressive wave?
Yeah. Is that it?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, honestly, I really, even more so than DSA, I have to give a lot of credit to the Working Families Party in Delaware too. I mean, they've really been a lot more organized, and they have more capacity because they kind of have a little bit of a different model than the DSA has, and then the Democratic Party has, and that like the chair of the Delaware Working Families Party, that's his full-time job. It's not a volunteer thing where it's how party officials or DSA officials like myself are. Yeah, and they've just been really well organized. They've been very involved in candidate recruitment, and there's been a lot of overlap with us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will take some credit. I mean, certainly, Kira Hoffner. I mean, she wasn't involved with the Working Families Party at all, and she still won her primary, albeit with 34% in a 5-way race.
Yeah.
But she had the support of us, as well as they're probably not as active as us or WFP, but Progressive Democrats of Delaware. They're great too. They grew out of the Howard Dean campaign back in 2004, and they're actually an official arm of the state party that just focuses on electing progressives. So
whoa.
Yeah. So there's kind of yeah, and then Delaware. If for all of our viewers, we were the dead last state to get a DSA chapter. We did not get one until January 2021. Although we had an organizing committee.
So how long
for reviews before that? But.
And for kind of relatively sort of relative political newbies like me, how long has the DSA been around? Because I feel like I might have seen, he was the movie Mank where I think it was Upton Sinclair was running. I thought it was, maybe I'm woefully misremembering what I saw there, but is the DSA, has that been a pretty long standing political organization in U.S. politics, or how long has it been around for?
Yeah, so it came about I think 40 years ago, I believe. It was founded by Michael Harrington,
Hmm.
and it came about as a result of the merger of two organizations, the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee
Hmm.
and the much smaller New American Movement merged to become the DSA.
Gotcha.
But it definitely there were some big things that it was doing in its earlier years in the 80s and 90s. I mean, the mayor of New York in the early 90s, David Dinkins,
Mm.
was a DSA member.
Mm.
Um, but it was kind of kind of just floating around, kind of hanging around the margins, not really holding more than maybe one or two congressional seats at a time.
Yeah.
Maybe a handful of state seats.
Mm.
But then after the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016,
Mm.
it really started to take off. And then when DSA member uh, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, when she won her primary
Mm.
in a massive upset, then it was really, that's when, I mean,
Yeah.
that's when
Yeah.
the
Whenever you
numbers
have someone.
really just started to
Yeah. AOC.
explode.
Yeah, man. Whenever man, I wish I like was interested in politics whenever AOC like first be. I didn't really become interested in politics until like COVID hit. So that's yeah. So that's all. So thanks for like sort of like painting that picture. I think of sort of how like the DSA is kind of like grown to be so prominent. What do you think of AOC now? Because she's been in office for 4 years, and there are some wonderful things. I mean, for one, I think she's gotten younger folks like me interested in leftist politics. But
Sure, I mean she's the most famous DSA member by far.
yeah.
I mean she's really pioneered socialism more than any other individual among the millennial generation. And I guess you're Gen Z, so both of our both of the sort of younger cohorts in
Yeah.
American politics right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think she's great. I mean she's I mean frankly I mean she's probably like she's probably the most unifying figure in DSA. I mean, I guess she's maybe a little bit more toward toward the more moderate faction of it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
was
Yeah.
someone like
Yeah.
someone like Rashida Tlaib is probably more towards like the more radical
Yeah.
ends of DSA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I definitely I certainly personally have a very high opinion of AOC, and I would think that not all, but certainly the vast majority
Yeah.
of my chapter members would feel the same way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and I like that you're saying. I can definitely understand just because of like how AOC sort of really, I mean, was such a strong political figure then, and really, like I mean, as you said, I mean, she really brought the DSA to prominence. The thing is, I think folks like me lost a little bit of confidence in her, especially after her response to force a vote. I think, and that's going to be a tough. I think. Look, I mean, I'm not going to speak. I mean, it's a different thing for her. It's a different. It's different about. How would I put it this way? I understand that like what I want of AOC is not necessarily may not be what's in alignment with her constituency, right? I mean, the New York, her voter base may be totally different. And she's probably doing her best to just listen to them, the people that voted her in. And look, I support that. But whenever you see whenever there was such a massive movement like Force the Vote that happened, where you had, I mean, a number of political podcasters who, keep in mind, by the way, a lot of them like ended up sort of breaking off with each other over petty drama. So there was this moment where you had a lot of unity over trying to get, House Democrats to force a vote on Medicare for all by threatening Nancy Pelosi. And AOC was someone, I think she had at first she had voted like absent, like people have been calling her to, but then she like switched, like she like changed her mind at like the last minute. Very weird. So after that, like it's not that I think AOC is corrupt or like lost her way, but whenever I see her failure to respond to clearly like populist left movement. Honestly, you can even argue maybe like just a populist movement in general, because like whenever I even spoke to some people who would like even had like who even like agreed more with Trump, actually. Like I remember having one friend who was like still believing in Stop the Steal, but whenever I was telling her about like Force the Vote, she was like, oh yeah, like that's totally base. Like we need a single payer healthcare system. So I guess my point is that, you know, I think AOC she's a great figure for like motivating people to get, you know, become interested in politics. But I think when it comes down to moments like that, where you really need to count on her to be not just a representative, but a leader for the nation, I think she kind of dropped the bar there. And I don't know, maybe that's me setting too high of an expectation for her. But whenever she's like one of the most popular.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that it's like, I mean, I'm not necessarily. I mean, DSA kind of like we didn't really take a position on the whole force the vote thing.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Um, you know, and it's like, I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, you know, it would be nice, but I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, I get it. I mean, the Democrats' House majority is very narrow, so you don't want to like, you know, you don't want to like screw something up, and then you know Kevin McCarthy becomes Speaker of the House for the next 2 years, even though the Democrats have a
But
majority.
see,
And
that
you
was
know,
the point.
I mean,
That was the point. See, that was a wild, like, I think that was a misunderstanding that for some reason we couldn't, you know, communicate very well. Was that it wouldn't have automatically meant that it would have meant that both parties would have been forced to pick different candidates. So it actually wouldn't have been Kevin. I mean, it would have just been a different opponent. But the whole point was Nancy Pelosi was not going to be putting Medicare for all up for a vote unless someone forced her to do it, and they didn't exert that pressure when they could have. It wouldn't have necessarily resulted in Kevin McCarthy becoming reelected.
okay. Well, I mean, like I said, yeah, I didn't really because DSA didn't take a position on that. I really didn't get too much in the detail. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I don't really, I don't really listen to like that many, like national podcasters and stuff.
Yeah, and
So
that's
it wasn't really something I was deeply engaged on. But I
yeah.
mean, I will say though that I mean even though the DSA's influence has definitely grown, I mean, we still only have 4 seats in Congress. There's a
Yeah.
representatives of Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and of course AOC.
Yeah.
So I mean, even with those 4 representatives, I mean, that's still not enough to like
Yeah.
the Democrats would
But
still have a majority
the D
without those 4 people. So it's not really something we would necessarily have the power to
yeah.
unilaterally like
Yeah. So
get through on our end. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying like
yeah.
I don't want to like shit on the force the vote movement
No.
or anything
Well, it's
like
fine
that.
because
I
I
mean,
will
if
say
it
this
was
too, John. I mean, this was a very scattered movement. It was done very much at the last minute. Like you'd be absolutely correct to shit on Force the Vote because honestly, we didn't get it was an objectively failed movement. And I have no shame in admitting that. And I'm actually very proud of the fact that I spent my Christmas break fighting for something that I believed in. You know, so I don't ask you these questions and like I'm not trying to ask these questions or trying to be like a gotcha sort of thing. I'm more just asking you these questions as
no.
yeah. And I wanted to, because you had mentioned that, like, you know, DSA only has 4 candidates in the House, and you are right about that. But there are also a number of other candidates in the House who may not be DSA, but they may support single payer healthcare, or even they may support just.
Oh, there definitely are some other one, like Working Families Party candidates and other progressive Democrats and everything.
Yeah, and I guess that's my point is that could have been a moment where you could have seen some strong unity on the left, and I think the point of the DSA is to be that strong. What's the phrase? We should. I mean, the DSA should be the one pushing that Overton window to the left, and whenever it kind of sort of struggled to commit to force the vote, that's where it kind of stumbled to achieve to that standard that we needed at the time. But
okay, I mean I can see that as being a fair criticism, but I don't think it's fair to say that we haven't pushed the Overton window to the left. I mean,
okay,
there's
that's fair.
certainly
That's fair.
I mean,
My bad. Yeah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has called for an $18 minimum hour wage. Rashida Tlaib has called for 18 to 20 an hour. I mean,
Oh, they
nobody else.
they bumped that up to
Nobody
18 to
else.
20. I didn't know they bumped it up to 18 to 20. That's good.
They have made those calls,
Okay.
and yeah, and I mean, no other non-DSA candidate has pushed anything.
Hmm. Yeah.
that economically radical before.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's me. This is me being the idealist. I'm being the idealist kid who's got this coach, which I should probably mention too.
no, that's fine. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, I have the I actually had the pleasure to meet John through the American Youth for Climate Action group that we've been just kind of meeting online, and John was kind enough to meet with us, and I'm meeting a lot of friends in this group, and can't wait to share what all the wonderful stuff we're getting to talk about. And speaking of which, maybe let's move to climate because personally, I've talked a lot about Medicare for all. I'm gonna like sort of slide your window over here so I can show the audience. I've got this shirt that says M for A now because I did work with March for Medicare for All in 2021. That was a shirt I wore to protest in Little Rock. So anyways, regarding healthcare, I know that y'all have like, I love single payer, right? And I know you agree with,
oh
me on
yeah, no,
that.
we're definitely in favor of
Yeah.
single payer healthcare.
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
Exactly. It's just, I think after, I think after,
yeah, we're actually
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I was just saying, like, after seeing, some relatively strong populist movements that have happened, I think moving forward, I think my only question is, like, I think it could be nice to try to see the DSA also support some kind of populist movement for specific policies like that, maybe like Medicare for All or even Green New
Yeah, I
Deal,
mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we actually have a whole Green New Deal, slash eco socialist working group, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the Green New Deal is, it's really DSA member AOC's brainchild,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've actually been fighting. Uh, I was doing policy for uh, you know, uh, Paul Prescott, who's a state senate candidate up in Philly.
Mm.
I did, and he was endorsed by the Green New Deal slate of the national DSA, and I did his transit policy.
Mm. Oh,
Um,
whoa.
and
That's
yeah,
okay.
one of our two members in the state legislature, Medina Wilson Anton, Representative Wilson Anton, um, she's been working on a Green New Deal for Delaware proposal,
Mm.
and has also tried to get a green amendment entered into the Delaware Constitution, guaranteeing Delawareans the right to clean air, clean water, all that
Nice.
kind of stuff. So
Nice.
I get that there's there's definitely like sort of populist movements and everything that maybe DSA could be doing a better job of kind of incorporating ourselves into. But I mean, I think that ultimately to some degree, we still have to look at what's realistic.
Mm.
Michael Harrington, the DSA founder, and I'm not 100% like a Harrington stan, and I think there are some ways that he maybe wouldn't fit in super well in today's DSA if he were still alive.
Mm.
Especially on the Israel and a couple other issues.
Mm.
But I mean, his argument for what the DSA should be is basically the leftmost wing of what is possible within the Democratic Party, and I pretty much agree with that vision.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that it's good to it's good to push the Overton window more to the left, and I think that that's something that we've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes especially when you have to like when you have to antagonize people for something that is going to lose.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just sometimes there's times when it's worth it to do that because you just have to like make that statement. There's other times when it can frankly just be a waste of limited political capital.
Yeah.
So I think and that's something that I deal with. That's something that I think all of our all of our elected officials both in DSA, both here in Delaware and across the country,
Mm-hmm.
Have to sort of deal with and navigate.
Yeah.
It's tough to find that balance. And
It,
I mean, like not to shit on podcasters, but
no.
it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit behind a microphone and call for the best things possible. But
Yeah.
when you're in the room, negotiating, then it's
It,
things get a lot hairier.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
There's probably a lot there. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about especially even just like the personalities, but behind the scene even that can really affect. I think maybe like the.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially, Delaware has we have the second smallest state senate and the second smallest state house
Mm.
in the country. Only Alaska's are one seat less each. They
Oh.
have 20 senators and 40 reps. We have 21 senators and
Mm-hmm.
41 reps. So, one big ego or one eccentric, especially at a committee level,
Mm-hmm.
can really, make or break a lot of stuff that goes on here.
Yeah.
Um,
I wanted to,
yeah, go ahead.
if I could, I wanted to touch because I actually did want to make a sort of disclaimer with forced to vote. Because look, even some of the people who were involved in forced to vote, I still don't really like Jimmy, the guy who started Jimmy Dore.
Oh,
He is so cringe. He's
yeah,
so cringe.
he's really like, I mean, he started off like seeming pretty awesome. It was like endorsing Bernie and everything, but he seems to really have
Yeah.
jumped on the crazy train and has not used the brakes lately.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like he's just this for some reason he just feels he seems to have just that crazed rhetoric of Donald Trump, but no sort of like infused in like a leftist manner that kind of like, kind of tries to appeal to both sides, but ultimately isn't very informative and ends up just being a lot of like loud noise, I think.
Yeah, just kind of like old man yells at cloud.
Yes,
Comment,
yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. Okay. To be quite honest, whenever I watch Jimmy Dore, my insecurity, my insecurities just flourish because I'm just like, oh my God, I swear if that's me in 50 years, oh boy. I don't know. Maybe he suffers from the same, anyways, I was going to make maybe, I don't know. Maybe he suffers from the same Adderall problems that Trump definitely suffers from. But I don't know.
I don't know the guy personally, so I won't make any judgments on that end. But I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. Well, the thing. I mean, you've seen like the evidence of like. Have you seen like that? There was like a clip where it showed like a day like there was Trump at like a rally, like I want to say in the morning or something like that, and then Trump at like a dinner speech like at the very end of that day, and everything. And speaking of, I have ADHD and I've had to take different medications and whatnot. I mean that guy was coming off of something. He was
yeah, wasn't there some like debate clip of him like sniffling or something?
Yeah, well that's the rumors
yeah,
that he probably snorts that. And of course like his son, I don't know if you've seen there was a recent video of his son doing some rambling video high as balls, and of course meanwhile they still have the audacity to make fun of Joe Biden for being somewhat caring towards his son, towards his drug abuse problems. Which I mean the only thing that you can like critique Biden for is, hey, why don't you extend that kindness to like the rest of your population? But whatever.
Right, like what like push for legal cannabis, push for drug rehabilitation instead of incarceration, like your son got. Extend that to people who maybe aren't the sons of wealthy white male famous politicians.
Yeah exactly. So, and that's an interesting thing I just thought about too. I mean, Joe Biden he's from Delaware, right? Like that's or is that?
Oh yeah. I live about less than 15 minutes from his house. I can.
Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh, could you imagine, man? What would you have done if Ron DeSantis or was it Ron DeSantis or I can't remember because I know Greg Abbott I think played a hand in this too. What would you? I mean, my gosh, I can't believe because they were planning to send migrants to Biden's house there, right?
No, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't to Biden's main house. It was to his house down the beach in Rehoboth. So I was actually involved in DSA, a bunch of other community groups. I will give him some credit here, Governor Carney, as well as the Secretary of Health and Social Services, Molly McGarrick. Everybody was very, very coordinated, and in really trying to get a rapid response down there. Yeah, big shout out to La Esperanza Community Center in Georgetown, Delaware. Shout out to Delaware WFP as well again, and shout out to Food Not Bombs too, because they were to at least the Wilmington chapter. They have a few chapters in Delaware. There's one in Wilmington, one down Dover, and one in Newark. Yeah, they were like marshaling together a carpool with like supplies and everything. and the rapid response was going so well that that's essentially why uh, Governor DeSantis backed off, because he knew the optics of Delaware being so well prepared
Yeah.
would just make him look like such an asshole. You know what this reminds me of is like, he's willing to pull this stunt on Martha's Vineyard on an island. But when he goes to an actual mainland state, even a tiny state like Delaware, and they're able to handle it, then he just backs off of his human trafficking stunt, which by the way he should really be
Oh
prosecuted
yeah,
for. I mean,
absolutely. I mean,
that the amount of laws that this kind of shit violates is just, it's crazy.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie, man. It feels
But
like every day there's a song. So there's a song. It actually used to be it used to be like sort of the theme song for the political talk show I did on on the radio called The Beast and Dragon Adored. I don't know if did I tell you about this at all or no.
was it something you did at Henderson State, or?
Yeah, it was a show. Well, I didn't do it at Henderson State. I did it. I interned at a community radio station in a nearby town. For
Oh, you didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a small community radio station. The guy, it was literally like built into a pizza shop. It was awesome. The guy there, Zach, was the chillest. He was even the coolest because I had like recorded all my shows, but I totally forgot to sign in like half the time, and he was very chill about that. Anyways, yeah, that song's been ringing in my head whenever I hear news like this of just, politicians using migrants who are seeking asylum, probably, keep in mind, probably from the effects of the drug war. And he lies to them, tells them, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna take you to a better place," or what. I don't even know what the specific lies they're alleging that they said, but I mean, it's time for some kind of political revolution. I mean, both culturally, socially, and even in terms of policy, even in terms of like partisan politics, I think. And I think, what y'all are doing at the DSA are, honestly, I think you're doing a kind of a great job of trying to, really trying to advocate for specific policies like that, because that's what we really need, I think. Leave it up to the Democratic Party, and they're not going to advocate for the policies we actually need. They're going to try to advocate for some fake policy that probably has a bunch of meaning,
Means testing,
yeah,
watering down,
giveaways to corporations and with no checks and balances. Yeah. But
yeah, no, that's kind of been what that's actually. I wanted to touch on this earlier. I know you said you wanted to move away from Medicare, but I actually was really just being organized today. Well, not just being organized, but DSA just publicly announced their involvement today. So one of our most progressive legislators in Delaware, who's not WFP or DSA, but is just as progressive as all of us, who's retiring and being replaced with the one WFP candidate who's not DSA, who won her primary, Cindy Romer.
oh,
His name's Representative John Kowalko. He's like the Bernie Sanders of Delaware. He's just this like 77-year-old dude. Is like working class union guy.
all right, all right.
And he's just been super progressive, and but yeah, no, he is fighting back currently against our governor's plan to privatize Medicare for state retirees.
Okay, so he's
by switching it to a Medicare Advantage plan. He's co-founded this organization called Rise Delaware, and we're trying to support them in their effort. They're trying to have a lawsuit to try to stop this change from being implemented. So it sucks that this fight has to even happen, but it shows that even if maybe at the state level or maybe at the local level, you can't like enact like a national Medicare for all. Maybe you can't enact like a national Green New Deal that's going to save the planet, but there's still important, meaningful changes that can be done.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like by doing like a lot of your local local grassroots organizing, it sounds like you're forming a pretty strong community there of people who are now starting to agree like on a lot of policies. Which that I mean, look, I mean that's something that could that's all. Look, the more votes you get, the better. And
No,
I think
definitely. I mean, this whole progressive wave in Delaware has definitely been driven by mass politics, by grassroots politics, by just putting in the hours, pounding the pavement, in the hot, humid Delaware summers, going door to door, doing phone banking after getting off work, when you're tired and you don't want to do anything, just having that dog in you, having that hustle to build a mass movement of people. I mean, the DSA chapter has grown by over 35% since I took over in early March. We had
okay.
77 members when I took over. We have 104 now, and the Working Families Party, they're nearly double our size. They have like something like 190 members or something, and so it's really been. And I probably
Wow.
wouldn't expect to see that kind of growth in an off election year,
Yeah.
but it's still been really inspiring to see that just mass movement of people coming together for progressive change in what has been, I mean, like the corporate capital of the world,
Yeah, I know that's a
for
because
so
that's a
long. It's been, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because Delaware,
yeah.
it's such a solid blue state, but at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
our Democratic Party isn't like, California or Massachusetts Democratic Party. It's
Yeah,
really,
it's like
a lot
it's
more
the state
centrist.
of it's like the state of isn't it like a state where a lot of corporations like set up their headquarters for like tax incentives and whatnot?
Oh yeah, I mean there's an incorporation even more than that because uh there's actually more corporations incorporated in Delaware than there are human beings living in the state. Um
What?
yeah.
Oh my
Um
gosh. That is Oh my gosh. That is insane. This court Oh my gosh. That's great. So, what all
yeah,
is like wow. There are more corporations there than people.
yeah, I mean obviously most of them don't really have any real physical presence in
Of course
Delaware.
not, because it's just literally like one building there just so they can. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
no, there's one building on Orange Street in downtown Wilmington that has, something like 30,000 companies, within one building supposedly. Um
Oh, that
Yeah,
is.
and the reason it's done is because there's a few reasons. It's very easy to incorporate in Delaware. It's very cheap to incorporate in Delaware, which I mean, I guess I'm kind of grateful for because we're in the process of incorporating our chapter, and I
Oh,
feel bad
okay.
for yeah. So I feel bad for some people in other states where that's a lot more of a headache, but
Yeah.
um
Um.
yeah, but more importantly though is we have something called the Court of Chancery, which is it's where Elon Musk is having to go for this Twitter lawsuit. He's having to come to Delaware.
Oh,
Um,
really? Oh.
yeah, and
Huh.
it's got a reputation for being very efficient and very pro business. And other states used to have
Wow.
courts of chancery, but they got rid of theirs like 100 years ago, and uh, you
Hmm.
know we still have ours. So
Wow.
yeah, like 60% of American corporations are incorporated right here in this tiny little state with just one congressional district,
And it
Delaware.
sounds like there's a local grassroots. I mean, I mean, socialist. Socialist at least wave, hitting the state. It sounds like.
Oh yeah,
Um.
I mean, look, I mean, if barring any massive unheard of upsets, we should definitely win. All four of our members should definitely win their state house races in November, and that would make not only the Delaware House of Representatives the most socialist state legislative body in American history, but it would make the Delaware General Assembly the most socialist state legislature overall in American history.
Whoa. That
And
it. Wow.
although an upset is possible, Kira Hoffner should be favored to win her state Senate seat, which would also make the Delaware State Senate the most socialist state Senate in American history. Although New York would tie that record because they swear their senators in after ours, and
Wow.
there's we would have 1 out of 21 seats. Their Senate is exactly They have 3 socialist state senators due to win in November, and their Senate is exactly 3 times our size. They have 63 state senators. So
Wow.
we wouldn't have sole possession of the record, but we'd be in the number one spot either alone or shared for like national records
Wow.
proportionally. And if Kira wins, then with 5 DSA members, we would have the second highest number, just in absolute terms, not even in relative terms, second highest number of DSA members of any state legislature in the country. And even if she doesn't win, we would share second place with like a couple other states like Minnesota and Pennsylvania.
That
So yeah,
that's wonderful.
there's the left kind of red wave happening in Delaware, and
That is awesome. Jon, so I'm only thinking of 2 more questions, and one of them actually it's kind of to hop back on the podcasting because it's always this is a person I'm always interested in discussing with, especially with like left leaning people. The second question, actually, I think is I'm going to hit the second question first because I think it's probably most important, probably more important for listeners. So I've been in Tennessee, I've been in Arkansas, I've been in Missouri. I've been in 3 states, kind of in the Midwest.
the heartland.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're having all these successes out there in Delaware. Is there anything you're doing there that you think can be easily states like out here that may be facing a, just a tougher Republican opposition? What would be your advice to those people who aren't, who are still kind of struggling to see this to see this necessary wave and change in American politics?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I mean, it's tough. I mean, obviously, we're not scoring any of these successes in deep red places
Yeah.
maybe Arkansas or Kentucky or something.
Mm.
Um, I mean, just to be candid about that, but at the same time, I mean, there's I think that this even if this model maybe can't quite be exported on the state level, especially to like bigger states where state house and state senate races might require a lot more resources than they would in Delaware. But I think especially at the local level, there really is a lot of stuff that can be done. I mean, I know there's a couple DSA members, either two or 3 on Knoxville, Tennessee's city council.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I think there's at least one local elected official from the Nashville DSA
Yeah.
chapter as well. So I mean, I think that and I've talked with I've talked with some people, not as much in red states, but in like bigger blue states where like
Mm.
what we do like at our level, just I mean somewhere like California, I mean you have like 500,000 people in a state house seat.
Yeah.
So you need like really an order of magnitude level more
Mm.
resources, more manpower, to take a seat like that than like
Mm.
something like a Delaware state house seat. Um,
Mm.
but with that said, I mean, I think that this can even in red states, especially a lot of more small towns, rural areas, where some small towns that maybe the town is like 10,000 people, and they have like 5 districts for county council. That's only 2,000
Yeah.
people. That's probably only like maybe depending on the election cycle, only maybe 100 400 votes you need to get. So I think that
Yeah.
yeah, just really maybe like I don't want to squelch anyone's ambitions, but maybe necessarily
Mm.
don't have like the expectations for success, socialist
Yeah.
success in a red state that you might find somewhere like New York or like Delaware or like Minnesota that's pretty solidly blue. But I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
certainly at least just starting from the very bottom, not even at the state level, but just at the local level.
Mm.
Um, just do that ground up, grassroots stuff. I mean, even in Tennessee, there's I don't think he's a member, but I know that Memphis Mid South has endorsed Tory Harris, who's a state representative from Memphis.
Tori, that
Um,
name does sound familiar. I think I may have looked into her at some point. So I will. So I'll take another look at her. And I think our friend in the National Youth for Climate Action also mentioned. I think it's Odessa Kelly, who's running. I think
yeah,
she's
for
running for
Congress.
for Congress in the Nashville district. I sent a message to her, but she hasn't gotten back to me. I DM'd her on Twitter, but maybe we'll try to send her a more professional email. Yeah.
But yeah, just like I guess my if there's one thing I could say to people like living in more Republican states looking to do socialist organizing, I would just say like start off small, and just kind of like target those more local races and local areas.
Yeah.
I mean every blue state has some red pockets, and every red state has some blue pockets. So you just you got to find where you can
Mm.
be successful, and then just apply those grassroots methods, and
Yeah.
just do the work. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that's fair, and I that's actually leads me. So first, quick shout out that I just thought of because I've never been able to get. So we actually do have. Apparently, we do have a was it a young Democratic Socialists of America group.
yeah,
Um,
that's our college wing.
yeah, the college one. Yeah, so I think we actually do have one here on campus. It may be unofficial because I wasn't able to even find it online.
Yeah,
Um,
there's sometimes like those things like they don't get recognized by the campus right away, or
mhm.
they do, and then they disband. I mean, that's kind of what happened with University of Delaware's YDSA. Unfortunately, like, they had a chapter, but like now they don't, and
Okay.
there's some people trying to reform it, but hasn't quite
Yeah.
happened yet, unfortunately. But no, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I think that
Mm.
not just both for the campus. I think YDSA is great both for the campus activism aspect
Yeah.
of it, but also just for the the newer generation, bringing up fresh new ideas that I mean, look,
Yeah.
I'm a young guy. I mean, I'm 26, but I mean,
Mm.
there's I mean, there's still like the world has just changed so much that there's
Yeah.
someone even like someone that's like 19 is just going to have like a more fresher perspective on things that my thinking without getting their knowledge might be a little more maybe outmoded or maybe a little more outdated.
Mm.
But also I mean, I think that it's great to have YDSA chapters, because then that can serve as a farm system for for
Yeah.
future leaders in you know
Yeah.
broadly based geographic
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to
DSA
encourage, like,
chapters.
yeah, I mean, it's a great way to encourage populist left, like, activism on campus. And keep in mind, too, I mean, I was reading, I never got all the way through it. I've actually read, there are two books I've not gotten all the way through on the 1960s protests about, from, like back, I think like on college campuses. I remember reading one. There was like one that was like a graphic novel, and they had drawing. I remember this vivid scene of like students like discovering things at the University of Chicago that the university had been doing like a lot of like borderline unethical collaborations with the military without like informing other people, I think, or something like that. I might be getting that story wrong, but
Jeez.
yeah, it was something. It was something like that that led to like a lot of protests. I'm probably not giving that story correctly, but the point being is that that's always I mean the YDSA those kind of young groups of young students have always been uh, honestly not just great sources for DSA, but just really great sources for political parties in general. And I mean, colleges right now, I mean, that's kind of where a lot of middle class folks are going. These are people who, have some power, but not a lot, but they still have kind of that understanding of what it's like to, they're able to have an
Not be totally
understanding.
in a privileged bubble, and
Yeah.
have like hard things in life happen. Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, I wasn't not in Temple's. I went to Temple University up in Philadelphia,
Oh.
and I wasn't involved with their DSA chapter, but I was in the college Democrats there, and
Oh, okay.
actually a lot of yeah, there's three of us are all on from Temple College Dems are all on DSA steering committees now. There's me, I'm running
Hmm.
the Delaware chapter, and then uh the comms person, the communications director, and the treasurer for Philly DSA.
Hmm.
We're all three of us. We all came up together through that Temple Democrats chapter.
That's
Um,
interesting. So what made y'all say? Democrats, nah. DSA, like, was that like a simultaneous decision, or was that something that y'all kind of came to on
No,
your own?
not at all, actually. I mean, honestly, like what it really was for me was just just moving back to Delaware, where like like the Democratic Party was just so much more, corporate, and like,
Mm,
there was so much more aggressive, marginalization of like progressive people, progressive voices within the party compared to Philly. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying I would have never joined, Philly DSA. Um, but I mean, I might not have, I might have just, stayed, within the Democrats, doing whatever up
Mm,
there, and I stayed up in PA. I mean, I think for I don't know about Ron Joseph. He's the treasurer for Philly DSA. I don't really know exactly what turned him. I mean, I think with Daisy, it was just Daisy Confoy. She's the communications director for Philly
mm,
DSA. I think for her, it was just kind of frustration with like feeling like getting nowhere with like transforming the Democratic Party from within. So she just kind of
yeah.
like decided to do DSA, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean yeah, definitely big shout out to Philly DSA. I mean they have like a couple
Yeah.
they have a couple state reps, seat on the city council, and state senator as well.
Oh, wow.
And they've been doing a lot of really great mutual aid work too. Like they just built
Mm,
these I forget what they're called, but they're these like kind of like homemade air filters to like help with
huh.
the air quality in Philly classrooms. They've been doing a lot of
Wow.
strike support for the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where the Rocky statue is. They're on strike right now, and they've been
Uh, oh,
bringing in
wow.
protesters, bringing in food and stuff. So
That's
yeah, and,
wonderful.
they've been having
What are they demanding?
basically just more fair scheduling, more pay, but more importantly just better reporting policies, and you know discipline on sexual harassment.
Oh,
um
okay. Gotcha.
yeah, it's been a big, I mean, they've been without a contract for 2 years too, so things just kind of came to a head.
Oh, yeah,
um
of
but
course.
yeah,
Huh.
no, so yeah, and they've also been, Philly DSA, yeah, they've also been doing like a Marxist reading group thing, reading
Mm,
Das Kapital,
huh.
which unfortunately I've only been able to go up to once, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
really great. Yeah, they got a really great turnout. They got like
Yeah.
they got like 20 people there. I mean, they're a much bigger chapter than we are, and
Yeah.
they include the suburban collar counties as well. But they have
Yeah.
like, they have like 1,300 people. They're like more than an
Wow.
order of magnitude bigger
Whoa. That
than we
is,
are. So
yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, that's and it's kind of nice too because it sounds like, I mean, I mean, that's a strong community like around the, I mean, you're like reading and sort of educating each other about like in a
oh
very
yeah, no,
communal way.
it's great to have like a big city chapter like that as
Mm,
as a neighbor to kind of build with and grow with, and do some work on shared issues. I mean, it wasn't,
mm,
I mean, the reason that I worked on Paul Prescott's campaign doing the transit policy was because, I mean, I've commuted through his district before.
mm,
I mean, like the Philly commuter rail system goes into Delaware.
mm.
Yeah, I mean, there's really a lot of common ground to work on, a lot of mutual bonds and friendships to be made. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're really lucky to be so geographically close to a big and successful chapter.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, yeah, I mean, I hope to, yeah, I mean, hopefully, those relationships will continue to build and grow out there. Um, John, I think that's all I really wanted to ask you. I think the
Okay.
other question I had was more of like kind of an incidental one, and it's more of a pop culture one. And plus, on top of it, we're getting about an hour into this, so I think that's probably a good
Okay.
time to, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
can
probably,
answer a pop culture question, or we
you want to
can go
answer?
on.
Okay. It
All
might
right.
it might be a controversial one. So,
Ooh.
um,
Okay.
so so one thing that's all one of the moments that really politically motivated me. There were a couple of them. One was actually, it was so right before I ever first saw the Collateral Murder video, I listened to that Beast and Dragon Adored video or song, I guess. And at the time, I was expecting it to be like a more censored footage or whatever. So it was anyways, it was a bit of a traumatic moment for me, I guess, because I lived in a pretty a big like military family, I guess, and that was just something that was very traumatic for me. But the other big political motivating moment for me was watching the Bernie Sanders interview on Joe Rogan. I think there have been a lot of interesting discussions about, whether he should have done this. And honestly, I think there's even still questions whether or not, any politician should do that again. Because, part of me likes the fact that, yeah, Rogan was willing to give Bernie that platform because that ultimately did get him, and you even listen to his campaign manager talk about this on Crystal Kyle and Friends. He was like, we actually got like a lot of good feedback from listeners on Joe Rogan. But now we're in a bit of a different position, right? Because I don't know if you recently heard, he flat out said, with Aaron Rodgers on his podcast, he flat out said, vote Republican. Which, I guess I'm at the point now where does the DSA and should lefties in general, do you think, look at Rogan now as some kind of like, potentially like open-minded apolitical figure, or like, because part of me, because I will say, that was like a very motivating moment for me to see this this podcast with 11 million monthly listeners interview this Bernie Sanders guy. But, now, I don't know. I guess I find myself maybe asking you, larger speaking, like how can lefties sort of build a maybe some kind of media network that they can trust, because it seems like just trusting in the rich podcaster isn't necessarily the best thing in the world. But I also don't think just like, depending on some college kid to help you,
right.
And this is a question about an ethical media that's just very, the Kennel is also just very concerned. I have a copy of Manufacturing Consent up there. I don't know if you're probably not able to see it, but you can actually, you might.
Oh yeah, no, actually, fun fact. When I was at Temple, I took a political science class from Noam Chomsky's nephew.
What? Noam Chomsky's nephew? That's interesting, huh? So. Yeah. Huh. Wow. That's awesome.
No, that was where I first learned about like a lot of like the gerrymandering and stuff that goes on in Pennsylvania. Like he was really, I don't know if he was quite as radical as his uncle, but he was pretty far left and like really just absolutely off the charts brilliant guy, and really really taught me a lot about politics, even as someone who was already, pretty engaged, through the Temple Democrats chapter.
Yeah. But I did want to get your, how do you, are you finding like success in like trying to reach out to like different podcasters who want to have these kind of discussions, even if they're this small, or, are we starting to run into a brick wall here in terms of like, because at the start of around 2020, it seemed like, oh my gosh, there's like even an online like left wave move, even in the podcast world. But part of me feels like with Rogan kind of saying vote Republican like that in a manner that's clearly like, right now, I think if you just look policy wise, Republicans are like
terrible,
overwhelming. Yeah. they're overwhelmingly against the will of the American people. So for Joe Rogan, the supposed populist be going on and saying, oh yeah, vote Republican. Like, yeah.
I think it's just one of those things that it's like, I just think that, I just think Joe Rogan's, he's just kind of an idiot, and he's just kind of like, he just kind of like goes along with like whatever his guest is saying. Like, I feel like he's the type of guy that it's like, like maybe not like the worst human being, but it's just like he's the epitome of the phrase, like so open-minded your brains fall out.
Yeah. Yeah, to have Alex Jones on your pod, I'm pretty sure I recently heard him say within like the last 6 months, keep in mind, this is like while Alex Jones is under threat for lawsuit of like defamation in the Sandy.
Yeah, for like denying that Sandy Hook was real, like just totally
oh God,
is off the wall shit, man.
Joe Rogan, buddy, what are you doing? Yeah, but then you see these, like, even recently you did an interview with this guy named, and I'm forgetting his name already, but he's a guy who, I think he's just written a lot about his experience being a pharmaceutical sales rep. It was kind of like one of those,
Oh
like,
boy, I bet that's
oh yeah, it's a wild interview, and like, if any leftists saw that, they'd be like, based. So, anyways, that's a long ramble about drug policy and Joe Rogan. I may need to cut out some of that. I know, I can tell you're kind of young. It's probably getting, because I guess it's probably 10:30 over there now, right?
yeah. We're on East Coast time.
Yeah, so you probably got to get. Yeah.
I was just gonna try and like answer your question about the media and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just like stuff like this, just kind of like grassroots politics, like grassroots podcasting go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also not everybody's going to want to like listen to a couple of people talk about politics for an hour, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think that we need to move beyond that. I mean, I think that if there are any like wealthy leftists out there that want to like start like a cable news network to like compete with like like the more center left like MSNBC and the right wing lunacy over at Fox News. I mean, I think that'd be great. So people could just kind of tune in, tune out whenever they felt like it. Don't know if that'll happen, but
yeah,
be nice to think about.
Be nice to think about what.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think just like having shorter form stuff would be more helpful. Whether that's social media posts, whether that's like op-eds, written in like local newspapers. We've done a little bit of that.
Gotcha.
Myself and my other co-chair, Philip Banowski, who's big shout out to him. He's a great guy. He was on the steering committee of the union at the old Chrysler plant down in Newark that Bob Marley worked at, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so he has a lot of experience with like op-eds and, just, a lot of like institutional, like leftist knowledge and everything.
Yeah.
But and like, ads too. I think, one of the things that sank Nina Turner's campaign, and she was not a DSA member, but DSA endorsed, was she didn't do any TV ads. And that's maybe not really something super helpful in Delaware because most of Delaware is in the Philly media market. So that would be, but we're also a very small portion of the Philly media market. So that would be like it would be a very poor, reach to dollar ratio. But I think generally, especially like, for local stuff, even in red states like Ohio or Tennessee, but in like bigger cities and in those blue dots, I think TV and radio ads can really be useful. But I mean, I think podcasts are great, but I think I think we need more short form content to match Americans' shorter attention spans.
Well, and I will say this too, because I'm actually and I got sent an email. I finally passed my policy test for the local radio station here. So what I will be able to do is I can actually and this is kind of the whole point of the Kennel when I was back at Henderson State, because I wanted that especially if like. If anyone's gonna be listening to the radio nowadays, they've got the student radio station set to their car and they're taking a quick drive to get to class or do errands or something like that. That's it, right? So I need to account.
You guys actually take drives to get to class.
Yeah.
I'm still in a big city, so that's like.
Oh yeah,
totally
that's well. The thing is, like, there's definitely infrastructure here for like biking and stuff. So I've actually got an electric scooter coming in.
Nice.
Yeah. So the oh, you will not believe, dude. I ordered my electric scooter and I forgot to switch to my new address, and they shipped it to. I tried to cancel it, like, because I finally remember like a day later, like, oh shoot, I forgot to change the address. So I tell them to cancel it. Amazon 1 hour later sends me a notice saying cancellation denied, and then an immediate email saying, oh yeah, we shipped it to Henderson State.
Oh.
So thankfully, I had some relatives down there who could it's on the way back up here now. I'm had to get a hold of some relatives to go to the post office there. Yeah. Anyways, it was a mess, but anyways, Dan, thank you so much for stopping. Oh, and where can everyone like find you on like social media and whatnot?
Oh, I'm not Dan, Jonathan. Sorry.
John, I called you. Oh my gosh, this is how late it's getting. I think for both. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry, John.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So if you want to, if you want to find the chapter on on the internet and social media, you can go to DE, the postal code for Delaware, DSA, all one word, .org. That's our website. We also have a Facebook account called Delaware Democratic Socialists of America. Our Twitter handle is @Delaware DSA. If you're interested in my personal social media, I have Facebook is Jonathan Tate. You can just look that up along with Wilmington, Delaware, or Temple University. You can find me. And my Twitter and Instagram are both J Tate. That's JTATE 98. And yeah, that's if people want to follow me or find me, I don't really post on Instagram too much, but I'm pretty active on my Twitter, pretty active on Facebook. Chapter accounts on Twitter and Facebook are pretty active. Our website isn't super active, but it's it'll keep you up to date with major comings and goings. No, feel free to if anybody wants to reach out or like follow what we're doing.
I mean,
hopefully our ideas can be useful for your listeners across the country. And so just give us a follow.
Yeah. And I really, John, I really appreciate you coming on here. Cause it is interesting, like you mentioned, like across the country. I mean, I guess I have some friends like in Arkansas and some in Missouri who might be listening to this, and maybe some in Tennessee, but I will, I will admit again, like, thank you so much for like coming on here. Cause I know this is more of, I really appreciate you like just wanting to have like discussions with like and networking with like people who are just like sort of trying to organize on their free time and trying to do something about all the crazy political stuff that's happening right now. So
there's a lot of crazy stuff happening.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John. Again, co-chair of the John. Did I call you?
Yeah, Jonathan. Either one's fine.
Jonathan. Nope. Yeah, thank you so much, John. Again, co-chair of the Delaware DSA, which is seeming to have a it's looking like, fingers crossed here, that they may be driving a socialist wave in Delaware, which is that's going to be a pretty big thing to keep an eye on. So, Jonathan, great work, and thank you so much for doing all this. It was a pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to talk with you, and thank you so much for also handling even just like some of those more tense moments in the discussion. I really appreciate you. That was just a wonderful discussion. Can't wait to get this thing up. Alrighty, awesome. And friends, thank you so much for listening and watch. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. My bad. Anyways,
no, go ahead. No, thanks. Thanks to everybody for listening to this.
Yeah. And, thank you so much for listening, friends. If you, like what you, if you like what you hear, give it a like. If you have any thoughts, questions for Jonathan, I mean, feel free to comment as well. And, thank you again so much, Jonathan. My gosh, I think my voice is about to go out because I'm talking so much now. Have a good one, friends. Goodbye.